I don't know, James. Let's just go to the pub. Let's leave it.
Let's do it, yeah. So, welcome back to the podcast. Today, delighted to be joined by Tim Scott.
Hello.
Who's flown in this morning from Germany, which sounds very rock and roll, doesn't it? And,
yeah.
Until you get to the passport control in Manchester Airport, which is not rock and roll at all, is it?
They'll never let me through. Passport doesn't work.
So Tim's a professional musician, guitarist. How would you describe yourself?
It's music artist, composer, producer. I make a mixture of music, which is I take from lots of different genres.
Yeah.
But mostly I'm using kind of a modern bass, which is like kind of a beat to chill out, and then mixing mostly instrumental guitar with that. But often I'm kind of mixing styles. I'm looking for like interesting things that are going on.
Yeah.
And then taking something modern and then putting my own spin on it with a bit of sort of rock and jazz and funk. Off we go.
That's taking you to some amazing experiences, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely take me some places. But I mean, that really kicked off with doing my first album, Bold on the Inside, and taking the risk at doing that.
Yeah.
Managing to get that in Borders, music and bookshops. So getting a CD in the shops.
Yeah.
At that time was still a thing that if you got some kind of distribution, then a national press kind of followed from that, and then I followed it up with a tour in the Starbucks restaurant, Border stores around the UK.
Yeah.
Which kind of promoted sales enough to get it to the top 200 sellers list.
Amazing. We kind of skipped ahead there, didn't we?
Sorry.
A little bit. No,
Sorry.
It's quite all right. No. How did it all begin with playing the guitar?
Yeah, I always wanted to write music. So like some of my earliest memories of writing music around sort of age 5 or 6.
Right.
And I had no idea what I was doing. It was just nonsense. But, I was making up stuff in my head nonetheless.
Yeah.
By age 11, I was taking piano lessons, but I didn't do very well because it's all music reading. And I'm dyslexic, so music reading didn't suit me very well.
Right.
I kind of got interested in electric guitar, and they were super cool colours. I would see people on the TV, like the Police or various bands on the TV with guitars. That was for me. So sort of by age 14, 15, I was playing electric bass and then electric guitar.
Yeah.
Selling everything I had to do it. So I sold all my Lego. I literally sold everything I owned to play a guitar.
Yeah. And so did that suit your brain a bit?
I think
a bit better. Or?
Yeah. What it was with the guitar at the time, there wasn't so many rules, there wasn't so many courses. It was still quite an open instrument where you could learn a bunch of chords and kind of do your own thing.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. You weren't kind of tied down to learning traditional music.
Yeah.
With the instrument, it was very much you can. Yeah. Well, that's how I felt about it anyway.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I did. But I used to go around the music shops and ask everyone, it's a Saturday afternoon, I'd go to the music shop to see who was playing better than me or who knew something, or I'd find friends who could play a few things, and then I'd go around to their house and I'd learn everything that they knew, and then I'd leave and go somewhere else. They wouldn't see me again. So I did this kind of, just kind of teaching myself by learning off lots of just different people, the people about church, the people about, in the shop or the music shops or...
I remember, so we've known each other a while. I taught myself to play the guitar very badly at university, and then I was referred to you by a mutual friend, and it was really good because I didn't, having learned things like the piano as a kid, and it was always reading music and playing music I wasn't really interested in, and it doesn't make you want to practice.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, what do you want to play? What do you want to learn? I was like, well, I'd like to play this. And you're like, okay, let's do that.
Yeah. I mean, that was...
And I like that.
Yeah, I think that approach in teaching, it kind of really came to, I'm either going to work a dead-end job, or I'm going to, or I can teach guitar, or I can do several things with the guitar, which would give me money. Do you know what I mean? And at times have been really, pretty good. At that time teaching was really good. I was really busy with it. And it was also probably because of the way that I learned and that I wasn't, if you want to find a teacher who teaches you the notes and just teaches you the grades, then there's plenty of teachers who'll do that. Whereas I always asked the students, what do you want to learn? And I'd have like an interesting bag of things. I used to have boxes of stuff that I'd photocopied and prepared. And literally I've prepared thousands, I've written out thousands of tablatures and transcriptions. But it was because I wrote unique transcriptions, and I still do that for students now. I look to try and write perhaps a really good arrangement of it. So if you're playing in a pub band or if you're playing at home, this is much more interesting than just playing the bare part. It means that if you're a guitar player, bass player, drummer, singer, it's going to sound good. I always wanted to give people something that would inspire them to go home and practice. And so, for teenagers, that was great. For adults, when in a market where it's mostly just kids teachers who are just teaching, who deal with the children's end, the under 10s, that works really well for, a good while, and allowed me to, push my music further and work and, do my own thing really, which is, fantastic.
It's one thing being good at playing an instrument, it's another making it a business and a lifestyle. And was there a moment where you thought, I'm actually quite good at this and it could work, I could make a living creating my own music? And was there any ever a realization of that, or is it just that I enjoy doing this, I'm just going to do it?
It was kind of, it was kind of, I enjoy doing this, and if I can, originally it was, if I can make the same as I can in a dead-end job, then I'm happy, because it's like, I feel like, well, I'm kind of doing what I enjoy. I'm not necessarily, I didn't necessarily set out to teach, but it was an easy avenue, and it allowed me to be quite creative, and also then spend time being creative and put money into the, the things I was, more passionate about, like making my own music. But the idea of making a living from your own music, it's kind of a dream. It kind of comes in sometimes, and sometimes it goes away again. In terms of how successful that is, it's definitely been up and down. There've been some very successful moments and some very, very good times. And then there's other times where it's been, it's struggled. But I think that's like any business. And with the market, how it is these days, I think, that need to reinvent yourself the whole time. I found that in teaching, as the internet came in, the advantage I did have was that I would look for things that weren't necessarily exactly what everyone else had or what people could seek on the internet. Still do that, if you're giving people the pieces they want, but perhaps a unique arrangement or a really good arrangement, they're not going to find, when they've sifted through 20 videos on the internet or whatever, or blogs, or the kind of free tabs, then you're still kind of ahead of the game. But you have to be constantly, I think, reinventing yourself. And I think that's in every area, whether it's like performance or whether it's teaching, or whether it's, I think you always need to be kind of changing a little bit, or kind of looking for that next thing,
So I thought it'd be quite interesting to come on, because from the first time we met, when Bored on the Inside had come out around that time, I think, and getting, like you said, getting the CD and the shops and touring and selling things like that, to now where it's kind of all online, and there's been such a huge change in the industry, hasn't there, since then? And I thought it'd be quite interesting to get that view of yours and that ability to adapt to what's going on and keep going and keep striving to get the music out there.
I think the adaptation gets scarier by the week. As you fight against the technology, which is relentless. But I think there's still that room for that human story. And when I met you again, and we worked together on some social media things, those are still some of the most successful sort of social media things, and I'm kind of going back and actually looking at that and reconsidering how I'm going to move that forward again.
It was just at a point where YouTube Shorts had come out, wasn't it? And so YouTube were really pushing that. And then you were doing we'd done a few good videos of your stuff, was it? And it just kind of took off.
Yeah.
And hundreds of thousands of views later, like, oh, that was easy.
Yeah, no. It's like,
I'm good at
this. 5 minutes. Yeah. I think that kind of thing is good, and it doesn't kind of go away, because if you show people that, they still kind of value that in terms of perhaps whether they'll offer you something or whether they kind of think you're good at something, or to have you for an event or whatever. But yeah, I mean, things really moved on. Social media's, I don't know, it's a very interesting thing at the moment. I'm not really been doing that much that recently.
Because there was a load of issues that I remember from. There was a senator in America that was called Tim Scott that wanted the Tim Scott kind of social media profiles, and we felt like they were actively trying to suppress what you were doing.
Yeah.
And it was really bizarre at that point to kind of...
Yeah, I mean, he ran for president and then dropped out. So in the latest round, did you see that or not? Anyway, he even made Tim Scott guitar picks, and I'm just thinking, where on earth did you associate yourself with putting your name on a guitar pick? I mean, he really kind of encroached on territory in terms of... He launched his audiobook as an album on my pages on the streaming platform. So, that was... problematic. It still is problematic, but less so. I've kind of moved to being Tim Scott guitar, and I'm kind of, I don't really know.
And then there was, it's just an example I thought of someone that was really always very adaptable was during COVID. Yeah. And we couldn't go outside. And I saw a video of you doing a concert on your out on the balcony at your house. So that went really.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone, I was like, I've lost all my business, I've lost everything. I mean, I'd managed to recover some teaching online, which was a bonus. But yeah, like everyone I was feeling. I didn't really feel like going and performing on my balcony at that point, but I just had this idea. I thought, wouldn't it be great to do in the sunset in that kind of like, it's a nice day, there's blue sky. I'll play a lot of pieces of music and then kind of dub the two together. And some of them went viral, really viral. Yeah. And it was really, a really good time, really cheap people up. I mean, the power of social media for that was that piece, Magnesium Black, is really well known. There's a lot of people being exposed to it, but also what came through that was actually I ended up playing that for someone's first dance. So someone hired me for their wedding.
Oh, wow.
To come and play that. I also had other people who wanted me to come and play at their wedding as well off the back of that.
Yeah.
So when things opened up, there were quite a few events that I ended up getting just because of doing that performance.
That must be really nice that something you've written means enough to people to want you to play at the wedding. Or
I mean, that's it's a massive compliment. And also during COVID, this was another kind of pivotal point. Having played in nightclubs, I mean, maybe we should go back and talk about that in a minute. I've been involved in playing live guitar in clubs and then playing along with some big DJs or kind of writing some instrumental pieces with them. But during COVID, I used some of the investment money that the government were helping out with to buy some proper DJ decks, because I thought I'd already started doing this show where I did music. I curated like pop music that I played along with Spanish guitar and electric guitar and a few of my own pieces. But then I was like, if I learn how to use the proper Pioneer DJ decks, then I can just take a USB stick, them my tunes, and actually just do a show anywhere. So I invested in the decks, learned how to DJ, and then subsequently ended up, like I say, that meant that I could do far more at someone's wedding or at someone's corporate event, and had taken doing partly my own music and then also doing a DJ guitar show and put it into kind of one box, or being able to do one or the other, or split, sort of half an hour of this and then a kind of DJ guitar set for a party later on or something like that.
Yeah. There was a period of time where you were doing, because it was still quite quiet everywhere. There's videos of you playing in these empty high-rise car parks and in fields and everywhere, like a tour of the UK.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, can I sneak out and if I take my tripod, I can film myself on top of a building, and that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully the weather holds, Yeah, I did some.
There's some really good videos there, actually, quite well put together, I thought, for when you just do it yourself. And
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is there's some of those that later when I took those videos, then I actually recut them with some, because now I'm living in Germany, some I take some interesting videos of stuff in Germany.
Yeah.
And then I kind of cut that, then interspersed it with this video of me playing on a rooftop or something like that. And some of those have then secondarily gone viral on Facebook, and I got a few 100,000 views on a piece of music because I made the music video kind of slightly different with the cool fun fairy of Frankfurt and and me stood on top of a building or something like that.
There was one I thought you were these brightly coloured wellies in the middle of this snow-covered field. It's just you playing the guitar. I thought, this is just brilliant. The get up and go to go, okay, right, I'm just going to go and do this. I feel like it'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I mean, that was interesting because it's like it's an access road, but it's not only a country access road, but there's some houses up the top. And actually, so I'm standing in the middle of this, then all of a sudden this car comes past. Yeah. And then it starts sliding down the hill towards me, so I have to grab the camera and the guitar and jumping out of the way. I'm going what are you doing? And then I go, what are you doing? You're in the middle of nowhere, for me. And you jump, do you know what I mean? You welly boots.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've got thousands of stories from those kind of funny things. It's not very often you see someone just playing the guitar and filming themselves.
No. Yeah. And some of that is, in this kind of age, it's kind of, you need to create a conversation. And if some of this actually sparks conversation with people going, this is cool, or also, I always think, look at the videos that did go viral, they're often the ones where it's kind of 50-50. There's people that hate you and there's people that love you.
Right.
And I read more about that and I'm like, that is a great thing to do, although it's quite hard when the stones start flying. Yeah. But actually, if you're in the zone where nobody really makes any comments, doesn't get any views, it's not working. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of too mediocre. It's like, okay, that's nice. Yeah. But the zone where people are like, I hate you, you look weird. Yeah. Oh, other people going, I really like this piece of music. Those are the ones that, that's the place where you're actually going to make some sales, because it's better to have 20% you think you're great and and the internet exploding going, what are you doing?
We have a similar thing where it might spell something wrong on a post. Yeah. And no one can stop themselves from saying you spelled that wrong, and then it creates comments and activity around it. And it's just a little cheap trick.
There should be an advantage to me. I spell things wrong the whole time.
So, you mentioned playing with some DJs. Radio 1 weekend springs to mind.
I played in Ibiza a couple of years running for the Radio 1 weekend. It does Jules. Now, that kind of came about through if we go back to what I said earlier, which is when I pressed a CD. So I made an album. Yeah. Bought a load of studio equipment. I didn't quite know how to use it, so I set it up, researched it, bought a load of equipment, some guitars, a new bass guitar, some percussion, and made this album. I managed to get it in national press and then in the shops, tour it. But also someone I spoke to in the press actually was speaking to Judge Jules at the time, and I was also dabbling in the idea of kind of playing along with a DJ in a club and beginning to get a little bit of openings doing that. So he introduced me. He says, I've known this guitar player and he's getting this exposure and stuff like that. You should check him out if you want to make a track. So I'm thinking, whatever. So he says, I'll give him your number. So then 2 months later, phone rings and he's like, do you want to come make this track? Come down to the studio. I'll pay you to, you to come down to London. so he's like one of the biggest DJs in the world at the time, or has been in the last sort of few years. He's sort of at the peak of his career, and on Radio 1 every week. So we made this track, and then I convinced him during the session, can I come and play along with you, in Ibiza?
Yeah.
And he says, well, just name the weekend. So I kind of like hold back a bit and just think, I'm going to wait until the announcer ready one weekend by Easter, and I'll ask him for that. And if he says yes, fine. If he says no, I can't do that. Cool. So I send him this date, and I'm waiting for this email back, and he's like, oh, that's the Radio 1 weekend.
Yeah.
He's like, that's great. Okay, let's do that. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Amazing.
So, that's kind of how that happened. That was...
I mean, to actually think about that and go, when's the best time I could do that? That was quite high-level thinking at the time, because obviously the excitement of someone like that is saying, come and play with, name the weekends, and then have the kind of the wherewithal at the time to go, okay, well, when's the best for it?
Yeah, just to hold back and not just kind of say, I'll do this weekend. That took a bit of sitting on to kind of wait for that, because I knew I knew from the previous year it would come out fairly early in the year, so it wouldn't be too late to kind of try and do that.
So there would have been packed out clubs at the time. Yeah,
I mean, we were playing in a club with 3,500 people in the evening.
Right.
But we played in the back room. But yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah.
Just totally nuts. I mean, I was doing this session from about 5:30 in the morning till 7 or 8 or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's usual. It's own little challenges.
I mean, the really interesting thing about that is like when I started playing in the clubs, it is quite, in some ways, club music can be quite dark, quite sparse. So there's quite a lot of room to improvise and make something up. I mean, I love making music up. That's like my first thing. But also what really stood out and is what I've carried into the kind of DJ guitar show, and also, so what I do with my own music is taking some of my own tunes and then mashing them in, but also then taking a stock of famous rock or pop riffs or whatever, and then being able to change key with those and like follow the record and think, on the fly, what can I put with this? What can I mash in with this record that will get the crowd going? So, we ended up with doing this kind of him realising what I'm doing, looping parts of the record, and then me playing like Smoke on the Water or some kind of big AC/DC riff, and everyone like going nuts. So it was a real cool experience, and interesting to do it with someone who was kind of talented enough to
be able to
with it, and not kind of be I'm the DJ, I'm the important one, I need to have the space to. My records are important. You're spoiling my show. Sometimes happens.
That was what I took away from it when I listened to it. There was give and take on both sides, and it seemed like when you stopped, he timed the next part of his set.
That's right. But he'd be leaning over to me like, you've got 8 bars to wrap up what you're doing. You've got 4 bars, and then it's going to drop, and I'm going to cut it. And he's like, sort of. Go. I mean, I can, you
can do that.
But also you can do that. But also I got very used to learning how to cut stuff really, to listen to records and understand when it's going to cut, when it's a good idea to wrap it up and to bring it to that peak and then stop playing for a minute. You know what I mean? Like come back in the next bit.
Yeah. I saw, I think there's a video of you playing in a club in Leeds or something like that, and everyone is singing "Living on a Prayer" or something like that.
It's student night. That's a 5,500 cap venue.
Yeah.
There's quite a few rooms, but that was like that's the main room, the big room.
Yeah.
And obviously they play a proper mashup of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is when I developed my set. Is actually at the beginning, I actually had tracks on CD. This is when I started the DJ thing myself.
Yeah.
But I was going out and playing in clubs. As well, but that was the real advantage was when I had a set list of stuff that I knew. Obviously I'd learned the tunes that I thought was cool that I was already doing playing in the clubs. I was listening to what was working, and then also it was a mixture of stuff. But they could flick through this book and go, he knows this tune. So it was kind of they could be brave enough to go, he knows what he's doing. I can pull the record out. He can carry on playing along with the crowd, kind of thing. while they're screaming, and then I'll mix the next record in underneath, which, you know.
That's quite a talent, that, isn't it? You know, it's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's definitely not, because you need to be able to improvise, you need to be able to turn on a penny, you need to be able to turn around whatever you're doing into the next key or fold into the next thing, and not completely ruin the show. And, you know, to get like an audience that big to kind of pay attention to you in a club, I think it's quite difficult, because you can go and play and nobody cares because everyone dances with each other. It's when you manage to inspire that level of involvement, that was nuts.
And there's a video of you like in Ibiza walking through a pool while playing.
That's not Ibiza. That's
it looks somewhere warm.
Yeah, it's a proper beach party in. It's completely forgot my name. The town is. It's in the town centre.
In San Antonio.
No, it's in England.
In England, is it?
Yeah. So they did this. They shut the town centre to put up a beach, and they put in this pool.
Right.
And because I'm on a radio system, and decided, I said to the promoter or to the guy running the thing, I was like, "Do you mind if I go in the pool?" It's all right. I'm not connected to anything. You know?
Yeah.
So, because it'd be great videos. So I just like, and everyone's like, "What?" You know, because there's bouncers everywhere, making sure that nobody gets to the pool.
Yeah.
So
any opportunity, actually, is there?
Yeah, it's kind of. Yeah, I mean, that was a super fun thing to do.
Yeah,
because that kind of finished the night off well, and you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, that kind of thing looks good.
So how does it work as a business and royalties and things like that? You know, obviously we have a brief exposure to it with you, where we're looking at selling more on Spotify and Apple and Apple Music, and we're looking at percentages of what comes in per stream and things like that. And it seemed like a real battle, actually, to get any kind of reasonable recompense for your music.
Yeah, I think it is a battle, but also I think the streaming platforms are really difficult. They sort of they favour certain people, but I've found it's not worked for me yet. I'm not saying it would never work for me. But this is something that I decided to concentrate on in COVID, which is to work out royalties better. And since I've moved to Germany the last year, I spent a long time going through with a fine tooth comb everything that I've ever put out. So this is several hundred, so you get on for 300 tracks. 250, 300 tracks. But registering them with PRS, then because they brought out recently, you can link them with associations in the States. I mean, they collect royalties from all over the world for you, but the more joined up it is, the better it is. There's another association called PPR, which is a record label association, which I joined as an artist on set for a record label in 2008.
Right, okay.
So you register all your works there, but you register yourself as an artist and also, performer, mix engineer, and then also as the label who owns the original copyright to the recording. Then that's all linked to PRS. Oh my goodness, there's been a huge amount of paperwork that I've done. But yeah, some of the tracks, one of my tracks has done reasonably well in some of the courses this year. It's been doing pretty well. It got on BBC. And then it's had a lot of play in the clubs. But I have no idea. I mean, this is 2011, this track came out called Ibiza Mayhem, and it's...
Ibiza Mayhem?
Yeah. It's kind of like a piano-y Spanish guitar type thing, but it's kind of it's like light techno, so I think it's probably come back to fashion with techno resurgence at the moment. But yeah, it's been played like the clubs, been used in, cafes, shops, karaoke bars, events. I'm like going, what? So then all of a sudden there's like all this royalty coming from this track. But I think the takeaway I'd say from this is most musicians get online, they get on the high horse, and go, Spotify's not paying. And I'm like, yeah, they're not.
No.
But the thing is they're not looking after the other streams of royalties, like being fully registered with PRS as a songwriter and the owner of the piece of music, and so MCPS and PRS.
Mm.
Then PPL, that make sure that the record company, or better still, own the record company share. If you see what I mean. So then you end up with 4 or 5 royalty streams coming in.
Right.
And then I'm seeing like minor royalties from the track that I did well on PRS through PPL, in terms of there's even some artist royalties there from the original music. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
so everything kind of, and you think
it's a combination.
It's a combination of things. And also I get actually more writer royalties out of Spotify than I do streaming royalties for certain tracks.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether that's because of the place it's been used, or whether it's actually been used in, maybe in public performance through with Spotify as the driver. So really, to that end, I've been pursuing much more radio play, looking for advertising. I mean, some of my stuff does get used in advertising through there's some mediums on the internet that you can put your stuff in. So it's a bit like streaming, but the royalty levels are a lot higher. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're in the pounds for each use, rather than being in the strings of pence that you might not get paid because they're not going to pay you. There's definitely ways of, it needs to be used, but you need to make sure that it's connected in that the money is going to be connected to you, because that money will come in if it gets used, but you've got to make sure that everything's registered with details. So
I mean, I suppose I can say this. If not, tell me, because we'll cut it out. But we were looking at one of you releasing a new song, and we're trying to get more plays on Spotify, and there was quite a few thousand of these plays, maybe 25,000 or something like that. And then it was like, well, we're not going to pay you because we don't believe it's come from reliable sources, and we haven't paid for anything. It was purely putting it out on all the social media and funneling people back to
and they disqualify actual plays. Don't pay for it at all.
And we were like, well, how do you?
Yeah, how does this business work?
But you couldn't. There was nowhere to really argue about it.
No.
And give your case.
No. I mean, I think that's the case with Spotify. They're not very fair. But this may change, so there's no point like going, oh, this is the only way, because it's not. There are a lot of different ways. I mean, there's other things like videos that have gone viral on Facebook have paid quite good royalties.
Right.
So I actually found that I was actually getting more from Facebook than I was from these other streaming platforms, which is interesting to think that the money from the music is actually coming in through social media usage. And that's another thing that if you can drive, it's amazing. I mean, Roller's Games still doing all right. There's still kids all over the world making videos. It's still sort of growing slowly, but it is, it's around I think it's around 1,000 videos on Instagram or something like that being made with it. I mean, that's not huge, but that's kind of that's definitely off the mark when how many songs are released and the artist makes 3 videos with it. That's it at the end. It's interesting how that's grown, and then some of the others have also been picked up by social media users. Oh, and there's a dubstep one the people have started making like gaming videos with and stuff like that. Great.
But it's I think you might have mentioned this to me, where you can have months and months and years where you feel like anything you put out isn't getting picked up, and then suddenly it feels like the social media platforms are actively pushing you out to people randomly. And you're getting more and more views on things.
I mean that's become quite random with Facebook, but it does come in. But sometimes they seem to sit on a video for 2 or 3 months, and you think, oh, I've got 100 views on it, and then it's the next morning it's like 50,000 or 100,000 or something. You're like, what? What did I do?
I still see there's I think you did a Christmas I don't know whether it was your Christmas song this year, or you were doing a take on a traditional Christmas song, and I see comments on it all the time now that it's still coming through.
Yeah, there's some of them that
The Herald Angels.
Yeah, that was something like that. Yeah, this kept growing on Facebook after the event.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it still might come back next year.
Yeah.
I did a Christmas song, which is also that did well on social media, various videos, and then it's had a bit of radio play. But yeah, I mean, it's been good to have some songs that have been regularly played once a week.
Yeah.
On radio, and also there was the last song we released, Speako, which is a kind of Spanishy flavoured holiday. It's kind of got a slight trap beat, so it's kind of like modern, but it's like cool jazz, if you know what I mean, and a bit scatsing and stuff. So it's like super chilled jazz. Some of the jazz stations picked it up, so it's been on rotation in Australia, in America, and then there was a station in Poland, like a chill jazz station that literally they were playing it every day.
Yeah.
So they put it on the like A or B list for over the first 6 weeks, more or less. And then, I mean, it's dropped back to being played. They play it maybe once a month or once every 6 weeks since. But I'm like, that is really, it's been really great. And that's also been on the radio in other places, a bit here. But you never really know, because I can see some of the back end of it. But, sooner or later that royalty might come in from where it's been used, wherever. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
People have listened to it and use it for something else. Or,
yeah. No.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
I love that side of it.
I mean, I find it amazing when I look and think, oh, I'm getting paid for royalties of someone streaming my music while doing something on Twitch. I have no idea what,
let's say
gaming or something, But I'm just like, okay. But yeah, I mean, the digital world means that you can earn money without necessarily being with a big company. But I mean, it's a tough market. But...
Yeah. So you moved over to Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference in how your music is taken over there, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest difficulty. It was the end of COVID. I met my lovely wife, and I decided to try and make my life better and try and concentrate on. I'd really looked at myself, because we had time. Yeah, everyone had time for themselves. I think one of the biggest things was, in the music industry, I was working in events, and perhaps there were some people who weren't particularly nice, and it was all of a sudden it went silent. So all the people who were constantly negative or badgering or being difficult, all of a sudden that tap was turned off,
right? Which
was kind of really nice. So this kind of gave me some headspace to. I made a list of things I wanted to do. I read some books, and then all of a sudden I started ticking boxes. Part of that was also I decided I wanted to get closer to God. I'm faith in God to go to church. Nothing strange. But that was also a thing. And then I met Tanya. We basically, within a year, dated, got engaged, got married, and moved to Germany. But, things kind of opened up after COVID, so I started doing these weddings with the DJ guitar thing that I'd been talking about, and that kind of began to, that was super busy. Then we got married, then everything kind of dropped off, and things have been difficult. So, but also my lessons have moved online, the bit that I had, and I thought, if we're going to move, they were talking about shutting down things again by Christmas. But I was like, Tanya managed to get a good job there. And I was like, if we move now, then the risk is far, far less. If I was still working with, I've got all these contacts who are still throwing my work at me, then it's far more difficult to make that transition. As far as, German is difficult because it's been very difficult learning the language. But there's not the same culture for music in terms of there's not bars that have music everywhere like there is in England. Like you have like the local restaurant have a singer on every week or something on, or the pub. There's really not that culture, but there is a lot of festivals, and also if you organise things, you can definitely do small concerts. And people are interested in coming to see different things if it's done well. I feel like people will actually go to something. Whereas in England, that's a far more difficult sell to make them kind of come along to something, if you know what I mean? So, you know, from that point of view, it's really interesting. I've also been doing some, you know, some high-end events out there. So I played for some big brands like Nestle and Vitaflo, and had inquiries about the Frankfurt Motor Show and various other, you know, big companies or international brands.
Yeah.
So that kind of being able to be an international in that space is kind of interesting because, you know, the big businesses tend to be English speaking. So I'm definitely pushing more into that and seeing whether I can get a bit more of that. Also teaching a bit in Frankfurt a day a week. It's interesting for sort of international students. So yeah, it's a risk, and it still is a risk, and it's not very easy, but you know, we're going forward.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful country. I do wax lyrical to people because, especially in the UK, that, you know, it's not a holiday destination, really, but actually it's got some of the most beautiful places in the world. And you go down the Rhine, it's like being in some form of Disney film with all the castles and you know, and the architecture is just unreal. No one realizes that. It's a real hidden gem, I think.
Yeah, it's a really kind of, it is, and it's a peaceful kind of, it's quite a peaceful country, if you know what I mean. The culture isn't quite as crazy as it can be here, which is good, you know. I mean, I really enjoy that. Really, I find great peace in it. It's a nice place to write and record. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more concerts.
I've seen some videos of you playing in front of town halls and
places, some cool places. Actually, I was managed to get a very cool job with the tourist board.
Oh, okay.
Where they hired musicians to kind of play, and I ended up playing in front of the town hall or the town square in local town, which was, it was good. It was a great experience. It was really interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's been difficult to kind of begin to get used to what Deutsch culture is and what the Germans, you know, what they'll come out for, if you know what I mean, and what kind of, and how they want it presented. And that's been different because in England, they want it far louder. I mean, you know, I've done some theatre gigs where it has been loud and super cool. Yeah. That's fine, but there isn't that much of that. There's much more being, I found the things that work better are kind of, it's either loud and going for it, or it's really nice acoustic, and you kind of, when I say nice acoustic, playing quieter and making it sound really pretty and using the acoustic in the space, you know what I mean? Echo or natural reverb or a nice church or something like that. That is, you know, something that goes really, really well. Also, there's some of these gigs like playing for the tourist board. I've got some other ones coming up in the summer when I'm playing on some of the German islands, which I'm really looking forward to. Looking forward to getting into a bit more of that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely not something that's going on in England.
No. But you know, we've spoken a lot on this podcast in the last year about challenges and as a business owner, and I think as you, rather than just being a musician, it is a business, and what obviously there's been a lot of ups and downs and challenges in the last 5-6 years around that, and exciting changes and moves and all that.
Yeah, you could say exciting, you could say seriously frightening. But I mean,
do you think that bravery it takes to go out on a stage in front of people you don't know and play and not know what the response is going to be, do you think that gives you a certain attitude to life to just go and do something, not knowing what the outcome will be?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I do get nervous going on stage, but at the same time, I find it quite easy as well because I've kind of got used to that space. You need to get your head into that kind of thing. I'm going to go out, I'm going to do this. And I think sometimes when people want to speak to you in a normal manner, before you're going to do that, I find that quite difficult because I'm thinking, no, my head needs to be transformed into, I need to get out there and I need to be, and I need to win over these people. I need to kind of, light up the room and make this a good evening for everyone,
Is AI coming to the music world?
Yeah, definitely.
We talk about being a fantastic tool to use.
Yeah.
But it can create laziness and stuff.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing with that is, AI can, in a context of, say you're a student at university, AI can help you write the perfect dissertation in 5 seconds or whatever. Yeah, it might take longer because you might write sections on each topic. But it's much better that you make mistakes because you learn how to do the actual task. If you sort of mean, if you rely on AI, you're not learning how to do the task.
Yeah.
You're letting AI do it. For me, writing music, one of the most important things is because I learn by ear a lot of stuff and I write a lot of stuff and I make my arrangements. It means I make a lot of mistakes. And those mistakes sometimes sound really cool, and sometimes that's how you write a piece of music because you played along someone else's piece of music while you were learning it. You did it wrong.
Yeah.
If you kind of go and just get what you think is the right answer, then you've kind of negated the experiment stage, or the fact that you might do an experiment that didn't work in the way you thought, but was actually super cool. I think some of the tools are super cool, like this awesome AI tool where you can write the melody and then get a voice to sing it, and then you can rewrite the words of the thing.
Oh, right, that's amazing.
And it was like, actually, if you're going to try out a song, that could be quite cool, but it depends whether you just become reliant on the technology doing, it's like a self-driving car. It's like, do you sit back with your arms folded and let the car drive itself, or do you, obviously, why not? Or do you actually get involved and use that tool in a practical way where that could, I'm not so worried about the actual ideas because I always find that I have plenty of ideas. But I mean, I might still go to this thing and, that still might be an inspiring technology. I'm not saying I'm particularly using it, but I'm not turning my back on it. I mean, being dyslexic, I find writing letters and particularly writing in a formula that I think, and I found like GPT prompts really good for the tasks that I don't like doing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes to formularize an idea of how to go forward with things. I don't always find it, it doesn't always come out with the right thing, but sometimes with a certain formulaic things, it can be
used
very quick to get template out and then go, well, that's not right, but I can now fill in my own things and I feel confident that this formula looks good,
I hadn't thought of it being used to help with things like if you've got dyslexia and you struggle to put things out on paper, rather than talking about them. It could help with that and be a really useful tool.
Formularizing things is one of my pet hates. To try and write something, just to write a sentence in a structured manner. I could talk eloquently and I'm fine explaining myself. But I find that really super hard, and so I've already used that for, I would say, improving. I can give it the ideas. I can do a text prompt and then see what it comes back with, and I might alter that several times. Then get 3 lots of text, and then go nah, but that one in the middle, that one at the beginning. And making sure that you speak in a way that is going to be pretty universal, and that's what I've been using for getting on the radio, sending out emails, and I've found that's been probably more successful than me trying to write the email.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because just it's quite common these days, I think, really, for some form of level of dyslexia to be apparent, or perhaps it's more widely identified than it was. And I remember, was it when we were working together when you did a video about dyslexia and how it's helped you as a gift with playing music and life, and I remember seeing the comments at the time, and there were lovely comments of people that had done a search about dyslexia music.
Yeah, I mean, it still comes up. I still get comments,
Yeah.
that keeps growing. That's something that people, I do see bits of activity on.
The thinking differently is a benefit.
Yeah, and it's trying to use that to your advantage. And I think that can be an advantage too. Because when I write music, I always like to I almost want to throw the box down and start again.
Yeah.
Because to me, to just kind of churn out the same idea isn't always that exciting. I like to kind of challenge myself to do something that perhaps I've not done before, and I might find it a challenge to initially play or to initially try to, how am I going to fabricate that? Do you see what I mean? It's all within guitar playing.
Would you have any advice for anyone who's either a musician or running a business, or from all your years of this kind of push to sell more of your music and get out there, and is there anything that you would say to people that you've kind of realized over the years?
Yeah, don't do it. Oh no, in all seriousness, don't. Just be yourself. I think the most difficult thing is to sometimes try and follow what you think you should be doing and what your people might expect you to do. And that often isn't the thing that works the best. I know that's really difficult, but you do have to be kind of almost just yourself and not be apologetic about it. If you want to make something, you should make it in the way that you kind of want to. I think that kind of with doing my own music and promoting that through social media, that seems to be the stuff that's kind of gone the best. When I do the DJ stuff and I play along with other people's stuff, people say that's cool, but it doesn't attract in an audience that want to hire me. They kind of, it's when I got the sweet spot of promoting my own music and people creating a talking point, people hating it or loving it. Would bring in the conversation of people being interested in either lessons, hiring me for an event, wanting to come and see me in concert or go and stream my music or whatever. And that seems to be the end,
That individualistic side of someone, we talk about it with businesses and content on websites, actually, what makes you different. Because if you're like everyone else, they'll probably go to someone else for it. Yeah,
if you're just wallpaper, no one's gonna, it's just, and in the internet age, it kind of goes by. In some ways, you need to be, we're the best at this side of it, and it does need to be that kind of stark content. And sometimes I think, I look at myself and think I'm not being, and it needs to be more. It is always better when, like with the arrangement to do Harold's Angels Sing, I just made up this arrangement myself and tried to make, it was like writing a piece of music. I literally made an interesting arrangement with which then I also taught my students, which most of them hated because it's really super difficult. But it's kind of that's a way of thinking and making something that's like is really me, but it's really interesting and it's kind of like something a talking point as well. Is how I found that the music sells kind of or moves best on the internet.
And what's coming up in the future? Is there anything lined up?
Just seeing new music and hoping to play live more again and get out a bit more. Just working towards that. Feeling a lot more confident with my German in conversation. I feel confident enough to pick up the phone and just speak to someone, and I might ask them, if we can speak English. But if they can't, my German's usually good enough to make it through, so that's okay.
And I find when I was in Germany that everyone's very friendly anyway, and the fact that you're making the effort is more important.
I think that's the bottom line really. I find is with the internet, it's become a very crowded space, and I think it's a great place for people to go and look at what you're doing or what you can do. But also, I found it's much more important these days to go back to kind of personal connections and turning up, literally going and knocking on some doors and saying hello
Yeah.
and introducing yourself, or making a phone call and introduce yourself to someone, and then send an email of the prospective stuff. It does seem much better, and people are much more open to that, because there's so many people who will just endlessly, they're great at knocking out emails, and they'll sit there and they can write 100 emails in a day, but they've not made the personal contact. And I'm like, why am I not?
And they won't forget you, will they?
No. Not with the glasses and the moustache and everything else.
Imagine some of the conversations. Well, I mean, that sounds amazing. It's probably a good time to wrap it up, unless there's anything that you'd like to say more. No. It's been a really interesting chat. It's been great to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And thanks for taking the time and the effort to come and speak on the podcast.
No, it's great to be here. I think in the final point I would make, as I go back to the point about making sure you get royalties together. So if you're a musician, don't worry about the streaming royalties.
Yeah.
You need to be thinking about your writer royalties, your record company royalties, your performer royalties, the royalties that, there's mechanical royalties and everything, whether you sold a physical CD or whether it's a download. There's little increments of different things.
Right.
And just don't miss out on all that. Learn how to do it, because it's not that difficult. If I can do it, then it's been a big, my catalogue, to go through it all and make sure it was all correct, it's been a big job. But it's there's definitely a worthwhile thing. Even if I perform my music, I can claim the royalties for performing at this festival or in the local pub, and that means you're getting a bit extra for even if you just perform one piece of music in a night, you can claim that.
That's really important, isn't it? That's one thing it was interesting to get you on for, because not many people probably know that or understand the business.
Yeah, they don't kind of get into it enough, and I think that's what it's super important to sort of follow up all that kind of stuff.
And if anyone is looking to find Tim on social media or anything, everything is at Tim Scott Guitar.
Exactly. Yeah. So come and say hello. It'd be great to see you.
I recommend
our conversation.
If you like anything from jazz to dance music to chilled house and all around that, I really recommend that everyone takes a look at it, and we'll put all that on the description of the pod.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great to be here, and so we're flying out early tomorrow morning. So.
Arrivederci, that's Italian, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll leave it.
Cheers.